If there's an edge to take or a shortcut to greatness available, you best believe your boy here was leaning into that method hard. And trust me, in this day and age, it's almost a necessity. I mean, just take a look at any online game ever. Campers, griefers, glitchers, and if you want to compete with them, you have to sync to their level. And let's face it, we've all done it at some point. So with that in mind, let's open up the honesty box and make a donation. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 incredibly cheap video game moves that you totally used all the time. Number 10, Psychic type, Pokemon Red and Blue. Being the best that ever was sure puts you into a bit of a pickle, as by aiming so high, anything less is an absolute failure. It's not enough to beat all of the trainers and take all of the gym badges. With that motto burned into your brain, you've got to do it all. Well, I've got some good news, because there are some tactics readily available to the player that make Pokemon a bit more like Brokamon. The Psychic type, for example, just plumb takes the piss. Though theoretically weak to both Bug and Ghost, not a single move in the former category is powerful enough to make a dent, and the only examples in the entire game of the latter are all part Poison, itself being a wet flannel in the face of Gen 1's range of temple rubbers. A varied, balanced team is obviously what the game recommends, but it's entirely unnecessary when you can just raise through every single gym and the Elite Four with Psychic types. Now that is literally using your brain. Still pretty cheap though. Number 9, Yojimbo, Final Fantasy X. Ironically, Final Fantasy X's cheapest move is also its most expensive, as if you're struggling to see off the dark manifestation of the Major Sisters or getting your ring piece lanced by Omega Weapon, then don't reach for that sizable printed guide that we all bought as a kid, and instead get out your wallet. As in a move almost preceding the loot box phenomenon of the current gaming industry, you can simply pay your problems to go away. Specifically, if you pay the secret summon Yojimbo, a chubby chocobo's bounty of Gil, the wandering Ronin will pull out his lethal Zanmato and slice any foe in two instantly. Now don't get me wrong, it's a costly maneuver, but it's a damn sight quicker to grind money in order to pay the sizable bounty than it is to take on some of these late game mega bosses. And sure, you won't feel good about the process, and your enemies will likely call you a cheat and a chicken, but you know what? They're dead, and winners write the history books, kids. Remember that. Number 8, Kirby Stone, Super Smash Bros. Kirby, like he does in all of his games, absolutely sucks in Smash Brothers, especially if he's your opponent. Now there's a special place in the series creator Masahiro Sakurai's heart for the little ball of pinkness being the first character he designed after joining HAL Laboratory in 1989, and it's also why he's forced the little blob into the main roster, story, and even designed Smash Brothers to have the same side-on perspective that the Kirby series is known for, and it's also why he's an absolute powerhouse. In addition to having approximately 1,000 recovery jumps, which makes him impossible to smash, a lethal flurry of fist jabs simply from mashing the A button, and the adorable yet irritating ability to imitate every other character, Kirby also has one of the game's most devastating special moves. The basic pattern is simple. You float up higher than any other player can reach, then drop down on them with this bastard boulder move. In the chaos of a multi-man match, this move will often annihilate players unable to keep track of things, and turn their dreamland into an absolute nightmare. Number 7, Elbow Assault, Shenmue! Now there's a saying from Benjamin Richardson's favourite video game ever, Shenmue, that goes a little something like this. From a distant land in the east, from across the seas, he shall appear. He does not know the strength hidden within, the strength that would destroy him, the strength that would fulfill his wishes, the strength that comes from his elbows when you press forward X and annihilate anyone in your path. Okay, so I might have changed the quote a little bit here, but the message is in effect the same, as the Hatsuki Elbow Flurry is without doubt the only move you will ever need to master in order to come out on top in any of the original fights in the original game. Original fights, original game. I know what I said, I'm sticking with it. It does make you feel like a bit of a dick though, because of all the importance placed on mastering martial arts throughout the narrative, but hey, what works works. Number 6, Farsight XR20, Perfect Dark. Rare's spiritual sequel to their FPS-altering Bond romp GoldenEye Perfect Dark came with an arsenal of inventive and exciting new weapons. There's the Dragon, a heavy-duty assault rifle which can be deployed as a proximity mine once it's chugged out all of its ammo. Then you've got the laptop gun that can be programmed as a sentry turret and also runs solitaire when you're experiencing a bit of downtime. Then there's the hefty Reaper, which, held in two hands like a Gatling gun, does exactly what its menacing name suggests. But none of them hold even a candle to the Farsight XR20, a piece of overpowered alien hardware that can shoot through fucking walls. Oh, and it also kills anyone with a single slug. So as you'd probably expect, it's a mad scramble in the multiplayer to pick it up as soon as possible. And when you get it, it's pretty much game over. This is a weapon that breaks the game as well as any friendships you had at the start of the match. And you are definitely a turd for using this. And yes, we've all used it. Number 5. Scum Saving. Learning to live with your mistakes is one of the most important steps on the path to wisdom. Unfortunately, it's a lesson that doesn't really feature on the curriculum of many gamers, and by that I mean that while most games feature a morality system of sorts, they also most likely feature save points, meaning that if you don't like a particular outcome, you can just hop back in time and redo things. Welcome to the world of Scum Saving, which truly gets exploited in games like XCOM or any other strategy title, where each move can be planned, perfected, and then respun as many times as needed in order to get the right outcome. And if we're being honest, it's the cheapest thing you can do. Heck, save scumming has become such an ingrained habit that developers actually expect it. Animal Crossing villagers will receive a stern lecture from Mr. Rossetti should they try to quit without saving, whilst Indiana Jones' The Fate of Atlantis actively encourage such a behaviour, because in the game's manual it's mentioned that the roulette tables in Monte Carlo are rigged and the only way to win is to beat the system. That is, learn the numbers and then reload the save and then bet on them. It's a dirty trick, but we've all done it from time to time. Number 4. Rivalis Gale, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Nintendo's masterpiece, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, is such a triumph because instead of asking the player to just cross off an arbitrary laundry list of objectives, it has just one: become a hero. After a brief mandated tutorial plateau, Link is literally launched into the open expanses of Hyrule and told to master the world, not through a series of progression checks and skill trees, but a comprehensive and deep understanding of how the world works. Over time, you'll learn how to survive out in the often unforgiving wild, gradually conquering the terrain as you build up your stamina and your hearts. And soon every mountain peak will carry the marks of your ascent and effort. Well, unless you can't be bothered to get your boots mucky and just exploit the Rivali updraft summon that you get for helping a giant mechanical eagle in Rito Village. This burst of air will allow you to pretty much ignore every mountain, wall, or as is the case of Ganon's castle, the entire gauntlet, making it one of the many brilliant but ultimately cheesy exploits that exist within this glorious game. And yes, I've definitely done it too. Number 3. Eddy Gordos Everything. Tekken 3. Tekken 3 is without a doubt one of the greatest fighting games, and say it with me kids, of all time! And for fans of the series, it introduced some of the best and most exciting fighters. And it also gave us Eddy Gordo, a Brazilian capoeira fighter who danced out of prison and into the hearts of button mashers the world over. As put bluntly, Eddy is the fighting game aficionado's worst nightmare. There's no need to tediously memorize a string of intricate commands to master his perpetually pirouetting limbs. All you gotta do is mash the buttons like a cat with a keyboard, and soon you'll see the bodies pile up. And don't get me wrong, there are some really good combos that you can learn for Eddy, but for ease of access for new players, he became a firm favourite for an easy win. At least it was a good way to rub the smug smile off your mate's face as they complained how unfair it was for them to try and face him, but when you're on the other side, yeah, it's not so much fun. Number 2. Rava Velar, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So back in the day, players who managed to get their hands on the glorious Symphony of the Night became well versed with the Chrysogrim, one of the most lethal demon killing weapons ever, which allowed Alucard the ability to swing 4 times per second, and because it was one-handed, could be equipped twice, making you effectively unkillable. However, that's not what this entry is about, but instead the spiritual successor to this near-perfect game called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which also had its very own mad bad lad of a weapon, the Rava Velar. While not sounding as cool, this weapon will turn monsters into myths for how effectively it will delete them. This is like carrying a nuclear bomb in your scabbard, and unleashing it will melt everything around you. So while time has indeed moved on and the gaming industry has changed, the power weapons of old will live forever, and we will always use them. And number 1, gnomes, The Sims. So there's a bit of a philosophical divide over what exactly the purpose is in life simulation games such as Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, and perhaps the purest example of this genre, The Sims. Now for many, a lack of a clearly defined objective is the point, and the joy comes from simply living out an artificial life and all of the incumbent ups and downs that it brings with it. Others, however, take a more Randian approach, tricking the system to maximize personal profits and plunder. Now you could argue that leaving the capitalist grind in Stardew Valley to enter another one based on efficiently generating as much cash as possible is an ironic misunderstanding of the premise, but gamers got a game, you dig? It's for this reason that, rather than simply enjoy the whimsy of it all, laser-focused players of the original Sims game worked out a devilish little scheme designed to generate as much cash as possible. So a sim with perfect mechanical skill crafting garden gnomes from dusk till dawn could expect to rake in a cool $2,000 every day, which is significantly more than even the game's highest paid professions. It turns out that little computer people making even littler computer people is the fastest route to riches. But does it make them happy? Well, according to their little sliders, the answer is no. So take from that what you will. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 incredibly cheap video game moves that we totally used all the time. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. And if you'd like to chat to me about video games, film, TV, wrestling, and whatever else, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Today we detailed a lot of ways to effectively get rich quick or skip past the hard parts in life in order to get to the end goal. And unfortunately, that is not the way that real life actually works. Sometimes you will go through utter hardships that will feel completely unfair. And you know what? That's okay. Every single person will struggle at some point in their life. Even the richest, the most successful of us will have their utter lows. But I want to make something very, very clear. You are not alone, and that there are people out there who truly care about you and want you to do well. Friends, family, professionals in the sport industry, all of them are there to be used as a resource for you. I hope that you're doing well. Now go out there and smash it, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules. You have indeed been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.